promoting the free exchange of ideas, questioning the status quo, and having some fun along the way. This is the Are We Idiots Show. Now here are your hosts, Mark Weaver and Rich Kroll.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Are We Idiots Show. I am your host, Mark Weaver, along with my co-host, Rich Kroll.
Mark Weaver, great to see you.
Can you believe it? We're on episode number 8, Kroller. They thought we'd be canceled by now, but we just keep going.
I'm shocked. The FAA hasn't thrown us off the airwaves. Or who's the
FCC.
FCC. I knew it was an F followed by two of the same letters. I just okay.
And luckily, it wasn't the USDA because we bashed them a few episodes ago. But
The FCC has not pulled us off yet.
No. So we have another great episode planned for you today. So we're going to do our Idiot of the Week awards, and Kroller has some worthy nominees, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Then we're going to talk about the lost work ethic in America, and there's a couple of different aspects of that, but we'll get into that in a few moments. And then make sure you stay tuned to the end of the show where Rich is going to prove that he was an idiot once in his past.
Again, another proof point.
So without further ado, oh, and by the way, this lost work ethic topic was suggested by a friend of yours, Whitey. So Whitey, thanks for the suggestion, and we're going to use some of your suggestions in the show today. So just want to point that out to your other listeners. If you have suggestions for a show, and send us an email, suggestions@areweidiots.com. So
You're saying a lot today.
I'm sorry.
Did you notice that?
No, but I gotta nip that in the butt.
No, it's just I can see the thoughts, because again, the veins in the side of your head you're having a lot of thoughts in that head of yours, that cranium of yours.
Well, there's a lot of brain material. So
Well, let's not kid each other.
all right. So Idiot of the Week.
All right, now in lieu of the fantastic and historical victory by Villanova men's basketball team,
Yay.
2 national championships in 3 years.
Yay.
God bless Jay Wright. I'm going to stick with 2 nominations within the realm of basketball.
Do you notice we kind of go back to that a lot?
We do. It's a comfort level. It's a comfort zone. So my first nominee is Dallas Mavericks center Nerlens Noel,
Formerly a Sixer.
formerly not just a Sixer, but a first-round pick 4 years ago that the Sixers picked up in that first round that year. He has been suspended for 5 games without pay for violating the league's anti-drug program. Now, in order to violate this, Mark, you are suspended 5 games after a 3rd positive test. And that's just part of the story. So here you are, a multi-million-dollar player. And listen, I'm not saying it's right or wrong to smoke marijuana. It's obviously being legalized in many states. And people say, what's the difference between smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol? So I'm not going to get into the ethical or moral discussion about that. But
Right.
you're a young guy. You're a multi-million-dollar player.
And all you have to do is not smoke it to keep your paycheck.
And he's on his 3rd one. Now, here's another part of the story. And you got to remember Nerlens Noel. His career averages after 4 years are 9 points a game, 7 rebounds. Very modest.
Yeah. Journeyman.
Right.
Right.
Underperforming for being a number 1 pick.
Yes.
This year,
Of course, he was a Sixer.
of course, part of the trust the process. This year, he's averaging 4.5 points, 5.5 rebounds. So you could probably average back in your day 4.5 and 5.5 in the NBA. Now, as a restricted free agent going into this year with very modest or underperforming numbers,
Right.
Noel declined a 4-year, $70 million contract offer from the Mavericks. And upon that denial, Mavs owner Mark Cuban said basically,
Hit the highway.
hit the highway, and he was able to squeeze in a measly 1-year, $4 million deal. Now, so you add this all together, and just a quick example.
Is he an idiot because of his negotiating skills?
Well, just the whole
Take your pick, right?
this whole demeanor, and to kind of cap it off, at a December 2nd home game during this year, at halftime, Noel mysteriously disappeared from the team halftime locker speech and visited the media dining room to get a hot dog. So the guy could have actually taken care of his family and his entire neighborhood and his posse and, for the rest of his life. Instead, he might be struggling just to pay the bills. And he's suspended, and he's,
So it sounds like there's at least 4 nominations in there for Nerlens Noel. But who's your second nominee? Because I think we have plenty of ammo for Nerlens.
This one is idiotic, and it's aggravating to me. Now, again, this now is Villanova related. So after this incredible victory that was really fueled by Dante DiVincenzo, who's the 6th man of the year. So he's not even the star of the team. But in this game, as you know, he scored 31 points. It was a historical performance, right up there with going back to UCLA in the 70s. And he's a pretty quiet kid. And he should have been lauded, or is it lauded? Lauded. But instead, a lot of folks in the media have taken a shot at his character. And one in particular who led the way, Jason Owens of Yahoo Sports, The Dagger, started his article this week with one quick line. Dante, had a great game. And then he goes into 6 paragraphs of, by the way, Dante wasn't a household name, so we did some digging, and we found very questionable tweets in his past that he made in high school. Not just high school, junior high school. And then he pointed some of these tweets out from 2011 and 2013 when Dante was 14 and 16 years old. Now, granted, there's some racial slurs in there, but it's related to rap tunes. He was
using the lyrics of a rap tune?
He was using the lyrics where there's an N-word to describe something, comparing himself to Derrick Rose, another famous basketball player. And then there was some maybe offensive or derogatory gay comments, but the point is he made these in junior high and high school, 5 and 7 years ago. His account, after his recognition of these misguided statements, was deleted 2 years ago. So right. It's not even like it's something in the mainstream current. So,
well, it's like it's applying. Well, first of all, there's the age difference, which is ridiculous. No one wants to be held accountable for what they did when they're 14. God knows none of you and I don't.
Absolutely.
But it's this general trend also to kind of re-legislate history. Like, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, they owned slaves. Should all their things be torn down? It's just that's the way it was at the time. I don't know. I'm going on a tangent, but I think people tend to do this a lot.
Yeah, and the thing is, listen, I'm not advocating in any capacity it's okay to say anything racial or derogatory to gays. It's not the point. It's just in this moment of euphoria, which we should be celebrating a great performance, we're digging for negative and rumors and just cancerous stuff from way before its time. I don't get it. So my 2 nominees are Nerlens Noel for being an idiot in how he's handling his career, and then Jason Owens for focusing on what's bad instead of what's good in somebody.
So I'm going to go with the media, shockingly, because there's probably 100 athletes we could accuse of being dumb for a variety of reasons, for being poor negotiators, for playing a hand they didn't have, for smoking pot.
Three times.
Yeah, 3 times. Well, there's a lot of them. Josh Gordon from Cleveland Browns comes to mind. But no, I'm going to go with the reporters because generally I think those guys, guys and gals that are reporters, they want to make a name for themselves and they don't care about who they hurt to do it. So I'm going to go with the reporter, and I will send him gladly the $1 check for Idiot of the Week.
Thank you, sir.
Very well. So we're going to move on to our main topic of the day. And again, it's a lost work ethic. And in my mind, Kohler, I thought about this in 2 real realms because at some level there's, I guess, a societal or a macro level that I want to talk about first, and we don't have to spend a lot of time there. And I think we'll spend most of the time talking about the individual or family level, and we'll call that the micro. So what I just want to point out first is, I have this belief that we as the United States, most of us most of our ancestors came from Europe. We talked about that last show. And I believe that our society is trailing Europe in its evolution a little bit. So we're, 50 years behind European societies, and they've had a large social safety net over in Europe. You've seen what kind of trouble that's put them in now, where they have, they're basically bankrupt, most of the European countries. And just to touch real briefly on, the pressures on us and some of the contributing factors from a macro level. So the main thing is we have 206 out of 330 million people. We have 206 million working age people, and the labor force participation rate is 62%. So that means about 127 million people now are working out of 206 million that are eligible to work. What's not counted in that, and this is what I think is something that our listeners probably aren't aware of to a great extent, is disability insurance claims. So there's currently 14 million people on disability, Social Security disability. They are not counted in the unemployment rate because they're not looking for a job. And it's grown about 6 times in the last 25 years. 6 times the rate of population growth, the disability claims have grown. So that's something that I'd like to talk about is our governmental programs, and far be it from me to ever criticize the government.
No, I wouldn't do that.
But our governmental programs making it easier for people not to work. And I can get into some of the, the details of comparing a minimum wage job to being on disability and how it actually behooves someone to go on disability. But before I get into that, what are your thoughts about our governmental programs creating an incentive not to work?
Well, listen, historically, unemployment numbers have always been grossly misstated for some of the reasons you just mentioned. Not to include even the people that just aren't looking. Right? There's a group of people that aren't even making an effort to look. They're not employed. They're not on disability. They're not included in the statistics. So we judge presidents for the last 100 years on the unemployment rate. Oh, unemployment rate is up or down, so you're a good or bad president.
Right.
But the numbers are never accurate.
Right.
I'd argue the numbers are probably closer to 10%.
Right.
When you add it all in. So to answer your question, yes. I mean, I'm not going to name names. I like to drop names, as you know, with any of my stories and examples, but I know people that have taken advantage of the disability program.
Right.
Maybe they slipped and fell at home and they have a legitimate injury. They broke an ankle, they broke a shoulder, but the claim is, work related.
Right.
Or people that hurt themselves slightly but got an extra 2 months out. So listen, I know we all want to milk a system. I know we all want to take advantage of quality of life, and that's one avenue for folks maybe in blue-collar jobs that don't have an opportunity to make commission or bonus or take extra time off or do whatever. So I get the temptation to coerce a system. But yes, I do think, some of these federal or, liberal programs that have a good intention and they're meant to help the poor, help the needy, help the disabled, help people that can't help themselves. I'm all for that. I actually contribute myself directly to some of these charitable groups. But has it gone overboard to include groups that really could work, that really aren't disabled, that really are healthy, that are taking advantage of the generosity of these liberal programs? I think it's without question, yes.
So just some real world example. And so my theory is that over the last 30 years or so, a lot of these manufacturing jobs in states where they used to exist have gone overseas. Some of these people are not trained to have other jobs. So disability income becomes a de facto welfare program for these folks. And just to give you some numbers, so if you made minimum wage, $7.50 an hour, and you work 40 hours a week, you'd make approximately $15,000 a year, right? I think everyone would agree that's not very good. But if you're on disability, not only do you get paid around $13,000 a year, so it's only a slight difference in income, but here's the key. When you're on disability, you get Medicaid health benefits. So we all know how much health care costs today. You know, you're talking $5, $6, $7, $8, $9,000 a month for a family, probably.
Are you referring to Obamacare?
Well, whatever it is. I mean, so either way, it's going to cost approximately between $500 for an individual to probably more than $1,000 a month. And I'm probably being conservative, maybe more than that. But that's another $12,000 a year. So you can see by just doing the math, people are going to say, "Well, I can either work full time at a lousy job where I get treated like crap and make $15,000, or I can stay home, get a doctor to tell me I'm disabled, and make $13,000 and get all my medical covered for free. I don't have to worry about any of that because there's no copays on Medicaid or Medicare." So I think it's a no-brainer for people. So it's creating an incentive.
I would do it. I mean, if that program's available and it's not illegal and no one's going to look down upon me, I would probably do it too.
Right. And here's the scam, though. 34. You have a bad back, right? I can say that, right?
When'd that start?
About a week back. 34% of new disability claims are because of back pain or musculoskeletal issues.
Say that again.
Musculoskeletal. That's what I believe is the
Musculoskeletal.
right word.
Okay.
But either way, I mean, you know, how many people do we know just have a bad back? I mean, you get a doctor to say, "I got a bad back," and that's 34% of new disability claims. So there's obviously some scamming going on here. There you go, Rich. You can file a claim. You got a bad back.
Yeah, but now that we said this publicly, I really can't do that now.
Can you live on $13,000 a year?
Maybe when my daughter gets out of private school.
So anyhow, I think that's something that I wanted to at least get out there, that there are these incentives. And if people are just looking out for their own best interest, which I think most people do, they're going to make an obvious choice to not work and file for disability. And that's why disability has gone up so much.
But let's take this to the next level in your original premise, because that answers one question,
Right.
one category. But the premise is, are United States citizens overall less productive?
Yeah. Let's take it down to the individual or family level.
Have
and
less of
explore
a
that.
work ethic,
Right.
Are getting lazier.
And this is where Whitey was going, by the way.
And let me quote you, Whitey. So
Sure.
a good friend of mine, Bob White, better known as Whitey, he wrote this to us a couple weeks ago. Over the last 10 to 15 years, I have noticed a huge decline in work ethic among today's younger generation in the corporate workforce. Basically, there have been numerous times when I ask a young colleague to perform a task within their job responsibility, and the results are underwhelming. Typically includes a lot of attitude at the time of request and below average responsiveness. My theory on cause, and I'll skip over some of this, is that young people were never forced to work in high school or college by their parents. Instead, mommy and daddy gave them everything they needed, money, cars, and as a result, solid work ethic or motivation was never instilled at a young age. When I was growing up, I had 20 jobs before I graduated college because I had to pay for things I could not get without my own money. I assume you and most of our friends back then were also expected to work or at least have jobs for extra income. I would like to get your take on this. Is this a problem in today's workforce, or is my experience an outlier? So the reason why I'm reading that is because it's not just Mark and Rich's idea that there might be a work ethic issue. I hear this from most of my friends, or most of my friends that are parents, and even our grandparents. And listen, I want to preface something before we go on, because I've been accused of using the word millennials.
You're a millennial basher. Come on, let's just admit it right now.
I can't go there. I'm going to include Generation X and Y. I don't want to just say millennials, but there's a younger generation, more of an umbrella. Let's call it, 15 to 40-year-olds. It's not just millennials. Where am I going with this?
Yes.
Why
Where
don't
you
you
going?
pick up with, and I got some stuff to come back at you with.
Okay, so my thought is that it is partially our fault. When I say our, meaning the parents. The thing that Whitey described is probably accurate. There are different norms now. I think we may have talked about this on another show a little bit. There's different norms about what parents are supposed to be. And I know with my wife and I, our job, we think, is to prepare independent, educated young adults that are healthy, but not necessarily to protect them from everything. And I'm sure that we've made mistakes and pampered them more than we should have in a lot of ways. But we've made them work. We've made them struggle in certain instances. And I don't know that everyone's doing that. I think some people think that they have to be their kid's friend. They have to make everything pleasant for them. They think they have to always build up their self-esteem, and they're always winners. They're seventh place trophies. You know, we've
10th place trophies.
Yeah, 10th place trophies. We've seen all that. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to prepare your kids for life. So I do think there is something to it, but I don't think it's the kids' fault necessarily. I think it's societal norms have changed with regard to parenting and what you're supposed to be as a parent, and we've catered to that.
Listen, there's a lot of hardworking young folks. I know at my own company, when I go into the office, you know, there's a slew, 30 or 40, what I'll call the young generation, millennials, Generation X and Y. They're working their butts off. You know, they're in the office early, they stay late. So, listen, this is not a generalization across all. However, I do see a difference in generational attitude, work ethic, resiliency, persistence, toughness.
How about expectations? I think that is where I see the biggest difference, because I think, you know, like you said, some people work hard and doesn't matter the generation. But I do think the younger generation has always been praised so much that they now feel like they're entitled to stuff a lot quicker than we did.
The bar's lower.
Yeah.
Going back to your earlier point, listen, there was no such thing as pass or fail when we grew up.
Right.
Even the grade scale, to get an A, it was a 93 and above. Today, it's 90 and above. You know, a B was 85 to 92. Now it's 80 and above. So they've dropped the scale.
Well,
to make...
my levels were like 60 and 70, though.
Well, you were in the D group to begin with, so you're not a good example. But they've lowered the bar for pass and fail. What is pass and fail? 50 and above, 50 below? I mean, there are 10th place medals, participation medals. It was an honor to participate. There was a winner. There was a loser. There was a lot of life lessons in learning. Here's what it takes to win, and here's how I handle losing. So I think we've lowered the bar. It's now, believe me, here's what I'm seeing, and it's not everyone like before, but I do see a self-entitled, and the parents have given it to them. Right? If you grow up and you don't really have to work because your college is paid for, you're given a car, your expenses are paid for, your clothes are paid for, everything's paid for, then
you don't appreciate it. You don't appreciate it.
You start to form bad habits. You also lose, what is the value? I don't think a lot of young people realize what it takes to own a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house, or a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 car, or to put food on the table. You know, what's $1? What's $100? What's $1 million? I don't think there's even a value recognition, and then how it equates to the type of job you need to take care of this stuff.
And there's also and this gets a little philosophical, and I'll actually credit my father for this, because when I was a teenager, he used to have this term, this phrase, it's called work is its own reward. Now, my dad was borderline workaholic, right?
Borderline
workaholic.
Let's say he was.
But he used to have that phrase, work is its own reward. And I didn't appreciate the wisdom of that until I got much older. But it really is true that, people that are out of work, they're not happy. Work really builds your soul, your psyche, your esteem. Working builds character and gives you satisfaction with your job, your life. And, regardless of money, and I think people have a weird relationship with work nowadays where they don't appreciate work. And I don't know, am I off base in that?
You are not. I mean, listen, since the beginning of time, since the Big Bang, right? God made the world in how many days?
Well, 7, at least in Genesis it says that.
Well, yeah, but I worked, on the 7th day he rested. So even...
I think that meant eras. We can go off on a different...
The point is, even from a biblical perspective,
Okay.
a godly perspective, you were working 6/7 of your life. Right? So from the very beginning, work is part of our DNA. Now, yeah, I think a lot of people have jobs they hate, right? And you're always taught it's not a job if you love it, and it's a passion. But so many people hate their jobs. So many people are working to live instead of living to work, and that's part of the problem. So if you hate your job, of course you're going to do everything in your power to avoid it, or fight through it, or get through it. But listen, I think a lot of our bias comes from our own history and examples of our own lives. Right? When I was in high school, I worked. And when I was in college, I worked. When I was in college, every day, Monday through Friday, I was a janitor in elementary school after school. It was a pain in the neck.
That didn't kill you, right?
It didn't kill me. I didn't get home till 7 o'clock. I still found time to play sports and party and do my homework. My wife, she worked 2 jobs through college. My wife's parents worked 3, 4, 5 jobs for 50 years just to put food and shelter and clothes on the table. And I don't remember anybody complaining. I didn't complain. You didn't complain. My parents didn't complain. My grandparents didn't complain. We just did it.
Right.
But now I hear a lot of complaints. I hear a lot of complaints about people I know working 5 hours, 10 hours a week.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And, truthfully, most of the people that I know that have a poor relationship with work, meaning that they don't like their work, they hate working for the, quote, man, they're usually not in the upper socioeconomic groups. There seems to be a correlation, maybe not causation, but there seems to be a correlation to if you really dread work and it's just a task, that you're probably not doing that well in life. I don't know, maybe that's just, anecdotal, but there seems to be something to that. If you really value work and you like work, or at least you're good at work, and you treat it as your own company. That's one thing I always like to tell my kids, and I've told kids that I've coached. When you're out there, think of it as you working for yourself. You work for Me Incorporated. So whether you work for another company that gives you a paycheck or you're an entrepreneur, you really do work for yourself. And you have to think about it like that. You're in your own business. And think entrepreneurial, think like a business person. Your job is your business. And you got to always be on the lookout for the best remuneration for your skills, and you got to keep evolving your skills. So, I don't think most people think like that.
I think a lot of people wonder why they even have to work. Why are we in a world, in a universe, where you have to work 5, 6 days a week just to make ends meet? Why can't we be born like Adam and Eve, frolicking around naked, eating peaches and tangerines and hugging animals and kissing plants and looking up at the sky and a wonder of nature? And why can't we just do that every day? But that's just not reality. Right. And if you look at our forefathers, they may not have been working for a corporation, but from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right, dawn till dusk, they were tilling the land. They were hunting and gathering. They were trying to build fires. They were trying to build log cabins and keep wild animals and bears from eating them, and Native Americans from shooting them with an arrow. And
there was no such thing as leisure back then.
There was no leisure. I mean, so I'm not working for the man, but I'm busting my chops for myself. So I just think work is part of our DNA. I don't get why it's such a negative today, to your point.
Yeah. And just to close out the topic, I actually have changed a lot. My opinions about working have changed over the years. When I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I was going hard, thinking that, boy, if I got to 55, that might be time to shut it down and live a life of leisure. And now I'm closing in on 55, and I can't even imagine not working, because I can't imagine what I would be doing with myself. I don't like every aspect of my job, but I still like having something to do, something to contribute to society. And I can't imagine starting that final phase of life at this juncture. Now, maybe it'll change in 8, 10 years. I don't know. But as of right now, I still value work. I appreciate work. And I think it's part of making me happy. So final thoughts for work.
That's why you make me proud to be an American. Here's the deal. I think this all ties back to our instant gratification nation.
There you go, IGN.
IGN. Kids today, and I'm not just going to say millennials, the young group from 15 to 40, they see success of their parents, and they want to skip steps, right? They don't want to pay their dues. Again, not everybody, but I think there's a gap between, we all paid our dues. We started out as janitors and busboys. We worked our way into an office job and then up the ladder to become a manager, director, a VP, et cetera. The instant gratification nation would like to come out of college and go right into a VP job and skip 20 years of paying their dues. What's wrong with paying your dues? What's wrong with being the low man on the totem pole and working your way up and enjoying it and embracing it? That's the part I think is a contributing factor. And stop it, pay your dues.
And in fact, kids, I got news for you. I would much rather earn $5 million than be given $5 million. I know that may sound like a great thing. If someone gave you $5 million, you wouldn't appreciate it. If you earn $5 million in your lifetime, you're going to appreciate it and be satisfied. So let it be written, so let it be done.
I'm so
before.
fired up, I'm going to go plant some corn and build a log cabin right now.
You're so fired up, you're going to tell us when you were an idiot in the next segment, right?
Oh, boy.
How's that for a transition?
That's a great transition. Great segue. How do you spell segue, by the way?
Segway? I don't know.
No, I mean, you're Mr. Vocabulary, but you can't spell and you're bad at math. So let's
just tell a story.
All right, here's the deal. So this one goes back. I'm about 20 years old. This is my weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding days.
Don't forget, you were a stud. We all have to hear that every week. Every week we have to hear how Kroller was a stud.
Because I miss those days. I am no longer a stud. But this is my, I kind of was in transition, not playing a lot of team sports. So I chose weightlifting, and I had a lot of good weightlifting buddies from high school and college. And they're very successful guys now. But back then we were big, powerlifting meatheads. Dave Ciccinelli. Now he's a president of a bank in Colorado. Joe DiTrolio, now he's like the chief operating officer at Comcast. Greg Coriolis runs his own HVAC business. Dennis Gray is a famous lawyer in Philadelphia.
Are you going to name drop all day? Or what is this?
Well, I want these guys to be listening. So we go on a ski trip. Great, let's go on a ski trip. And I'm not a big skier. I'd skied every couple of years. I was decent, but I'm like, what the heck? Let's do it. So we drive up to the Poconos. And it's a Friday night, and we do what any 20-year-old maniacs do. We start drinking. And I thought, I don't feel like drinking beer. I'm going to drink some whiskey. So I probably drank a half bottle of whiskey. And we didn't have
only a half bottle.
Well, back then that wasn't a lot for me. But, we didn't really
I'd be on the floor dead.
We didn't have any time to go make food or buy food. So I ate a 2-pound bag of Cheetos. So picture my dinner and my night, half bottle of whiskey and a 2-pound bag of Cheetos.
That sounds like an album cover.
It does, doesn't it? So we go to bed, it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and hey, by the way, there's not enough rooms for everybody. So me and Chick, we go to sleep. We got to sleep in his car. And he's got like a 1978 Volkswagen Beetle.
Lots of room.
Light blue Beetle, lots of room. So him and I sleep in the front, and we basically slept upright.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the best combination of food and beverage in my stomach. We wake up as soon as the sun comes up. 5 hours of sleep, and we head to the mountain. And I'm not a skier, so I don't have all the appropriate clothes. I'm wearing jeans. I'm wearing a flannel shirt. I got my wool cap, and I even forgot gloves. All right, so not a good start. I get my skis, and some of these guys are very good skiers, and they go to I follow everybody. 8 of us go up to the Double Black Diamond, the best hill in the Poconos. And by the way, if you know the Poconos, the Double Black Diamonds, all it means is this is steep as heck, and it's all ice.
Yeah, right.
Right? So you got to be a really good skier. They go down the hill, and I wait. I'm a little tentative. I'm like, oh, man. And I start my way down the hill. And it's so steep, I can't even really slalom. I'm going down straight down the hill and just praying no trees or anything pops up. And I'm taking out moguls. I weigh 240. Boom, boom. I'm taking out moguls straight through them. And out of the corner of my left eye, I see this Susie Chapstick. Long blonde hair in a bright white jumpsuit from head to toe. Probably a $1,000 Armani jumpsuit. And she's just, shh.
You thought you were dreaming?
She's gliding down the hill, right? And I notice as she's getting closer to me, she doesn't see me just on the angle of the hill. I'm heading straight for her, and I have no way to stop because I'm on ice going straight down.
So you start screaming?
I start shouting, hey, ma'am, miss, ma'am.
Susie.
She doesn't hear me. She's got her beautiful
bunny ears on.
Earmuffs on, and wouldn't you know it?
Boom.
I take her right out like I took out the 15 moguls behind me.
She must have been screwed.
I mean, this is like an NFL hit with a 100-yard head start. We both go flying. One of my skis goes down the hill.
And now you're married, right? Is that the end of the story?
No, it's not. It doesn't end that well. We get up. She's holding her right eye. I must have hit her head. I got a little nick on my head. I'm bleeding a little bit. And she just gets up, and I try to help her up and be all polite, and she just looks at me and goes, "You a-hole." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry. There's reasons this happened." And she just grabs her stuff, puts her ski back on, and she goes down the hill in complete disgust. Oh, wow. Now, I'm horrified, right? Because I'm a nice guy. When I stand up, I realize that in and at impact, I crapped my pants. Right? So that combination of whiskey and Cheetos just went through me like Roto-Rooter, and I'm in jeans.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
well, at least it hit it a little bit. You didn't have the white snow pants.
Thank God. But so I ended up having to walk down the hill because I lost a ski. I went right into the clubhouse bathroom. I had to flush my underwear down the toilet, and I sat in the clubhouse for the rest of the afternoon, miserable. I washed my jeans in the sink.
That must have been great.
It was the worst ski experience in probably human history.
And needless to say, you didn't go skiing again for a while.
10 years.
Not eating Cheetos and whiskey.
And I didn't eat that and drink that combination ever again.
Oh, my goodness. And did your friends know, by the way? Did they know?
Oh, they came in for lunch to get a hot chocolate or whatever they were doing, and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing."
They're probably sorry that you told them. Oh, great story, caller. All right, so we'd like to remind our listeners to share our episodes on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We got a tweet thrown at us this morning, so it's good that someone's doing that. We need more. We need more people follow us on Twitter at Are We Idiots Show. And then make sure you tune in next week where we're going to talk about the big elephant in the country. You know how they have an elephant in the room? The elephant in the country, yes, our president, whether you like him or not, Donald Trump.
Are you calling Donald an elephant?
Yeah, well, he's Republican, I guess. So
Good point.
That's an elephant.
That's true.
But some of our regular listeners may think that I'm going to just come out guns a-blazing and bashing him on every front. But I might actually say a few positive things about
I'll
him.
believe that when I see it.
There'll definitely be some negative things. And hey, he's a politician, so I don't like them generally. So make sure you tune in our next show. We're going to have Donald Trump, the pros, the cons, and everything in between. And as always, please remember, if what you see or hear sounds idiotic, then we're just the guys to help you sort it out. See you all next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Are We Idiots Show. Please subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher so you can enjoy all episodes.